the Animation Academy. My name is Sandra. I'm going to be the Disney artist here to teach you how to draw a little cleaning robot. Anybody happen to know his name? Wally, yes! Spends all his time on Earth. And when you guys all came in, you also met Brian at the top of the stairs. He's here to help you guys out. So if you break a pencil, you need some help, raise your hand nice and high. He'll swing over to help you out. But he's up there to show you your exits right now, so please give him your attention. Any of those doors you came in through, give them a push as Brian's demonstrating. They'll lead you out of here. So if you need to leave for a restroom emergency, a churro emergency, you'll be going out those doors and just those doors. One more thing though before we get started, are your pencils are missing something on the very ends? Anyone know what you're missing? Erasers, yeah, and that's on purpose. In these classes, we teach you how to draw in a rough sketch manner. So we draw very light, very messy, and we build our sketch with those light, messy lines. When you're happy with your lines, that's when you'll go back to darken them in. So you guys ready to get started?
Yes.
All right, fabulous. Now Wally here, he starts with a square towards the bottom half of your paper. And I'm going to go in here, go about the size of a Rubik's Cube, a Kraft single slice of cheese, a floppy disk, if you know what that is. But just some sort of square here towards the bottom half of your paper. As I build this up, I'm going to leave some space at the bottom of my page for the ground, for his tires to land. But you just want a floating square for right now. Once you have your square here in place, we'll divide it up. We'll add a vertical line to cut it in half from top to bottom. And then I would say top fourth of your square here, we're going to add a horizontal line. So very lightly, I'm going to sketch across a very light horizontal line. Underneath that line here, I'm going to add a second one, and this one is going to go outside of my square shape here. This is going to help me make sure Wally's tires start in the same place. We don't want to use the first horizontal line because that will create a tangent line as we draw along, and tangent line is kind of just like confusing for the brain. I could explain it, but I feel like it's not a complex conversation, but you know, it's definitely not for a 15-minute class. I'm going to go in here, adding in the ground underneath my Wally. Now, it depends on how tall you want your Wally's tires to be. If you want to give him like monster truck tires, you could really pull this ground all the way down. If you want to keep it more normal size, keep it close to his body. That's kind of up to you. His tires, though, they are more triangular shaped, but since we are looking at him straight forward, they're going to look like tall rectangles instead. So from those lines that we started on either side, I'm going to just bring down two straight lines here all the way down to the ground. And once I'm sure that both of his tires are about the same size, I'll bring in underneath his body the rest of that tire there. I'm going back on up here to close the inside of that tire shape. And again, we're not connecting it to the corner of his body. We're just going to rest a little bit inside because otherwise, again, it would create a tangent line. But now that we've got this square here with his, it honestly just looks like a couch right now. So let's go in here, let's add some more details so this starts looking more like Wally and less like a very boxy couch. With his hands here, his hands overlap his body just a little bit. It's usually like the relaxed pose for Wally. I like to think of his hand shapes as flower pots. They are wider on the very top and they narrow towards the bottom where like his fingertips would be. So I'm going to go to the edges of my square and I'll place a diagonal line overlapping it. I'll bring in a couple diagonal lines here to narrow out his hand shape, and then one last diagonal to close off the shape. So it looks like a little flower pot shape, or maybe even a takeout container. And we'll do the same thing here on the other side. Just a bunch of diagonal lines here creating those hands. Now Wally here, the type of robot he has a tendency to, whenever he's like nervous or if he is feeling uncomfortable or scared, or even if he powers down, he will retract within his body. So all of these features should just about fit within your square. If they don't, that's okay. It's a drawing. But say you're drawing him again, you want to be super screen accurate. That's what you want to think about here. As you sketch out your Wally, is everything should just about fit within that square. We've got his hands here. I'm going to add in the space where his neck comes from, and it's this little opening, this little rectangle, right on the top of your body shape here. And this right here will have his neck just coming out of. The neck is two straight lines that follow your center guideline, your vertical line there. So I'm going to go in here and bring up a tall rectangle shape here for his neck. Now it's not super tall, he doesn't have the tallest neck in the world. You could, if you wanted to, if you have the space for it in your sketch, you could give him like the giraffe upgrade so he could see trash for miles and miles. And if he can't, he's probably in denial. But welcome to your discount double cruise. With his neck here in place, and the last detail we'll add in for Wally's silhouette is his eyes. And his eyes here are actually connected to the neck itself. So when we add in the letter U of his eye, that's where we want to connect them to. Initially though, I'm going to go just above that rectangle, place in what looks like an arrow pointing upwards here, or this very wide open umbrella shape. Now Wally here, his eyes have a tendency to look very sad or concerned, just because of their droopy nature. And so if you close this umbrella shape more, instead of having it so wide open like this, he might look more sad in your sketch. So just be careful with that, unless that is what you're trying to achieve. But we've got our umbrella shape here, and like I said, we aren't actually connecting his eyes in the center. We're just going to use that to help us, to guide us here as we drop these letter U curves down to connect to his neck. Now the eye shape itself is actually modeled after binoculars. When the director of this film was at a baseball game, he saw another gentleman in the crowd using them to watch the game. And so he was kind of looking at it, he thought they looked like a pair of eyes. And they have this very kind look to them, binoculars I guess. And so when he was designing the look for Wally, that is really what he referenced. Now I'm going to go all the way around Wally here, picking out my favorite lines, and I'm going to start darkening them in. Now this right here, in art terms, is called locking in your lines. If you want to keep them light though, if you want to keep changing or editing them, you are welcome to do so. You don't have to darken them in just because I am doing so. But this right here is going to be your finalization step for your sketch. So if you're ready to finalize it, go ahead, go back over your lines, make them nice and bold. And we'll talk about the film Wally here as we do so. Now Wally was directed by a gentleman by the name of Andrew Stanton, who's also directed a couple other pretty important Pixar films. I feel like most people usually like them. Finding Nemo and Finding Dory. Those are really important to our building at the very least. But those two films here, or I guess these three films, just show how amazing of a director Andrew Stanton really is. Now, for this film, he wanted to try his hand out at creating a silent film, and technically this film is about 80% silent. The only dialogue we really hear on the axiom. Whenever Wally and Eve are communicating, it's usually with single words, or usually with their body language. It's never really with complex dialogue, and so that's why this film is technically considered silent. Now, even though it is silent, these characters still have voice actors, and the voice for Wally here is a gentleman who's done other, I guess, they're pretty small projects. It's like a bunch of indie films. I don't know if you guys know them. They are called Star Wars. His name is Ben Burt, and he's done a lot of droids for Star Wars, and I believe he was also the voice for R2-D2. He created that iconic voice that everyone knows. But for this film here, he actually did not want to do any more robot voices after episode 3. He told his wife that he was done with robots. He was hanging up the mantle, and then I guess Pixar just they pitched a really good story. And so he was right on back with those robot voices, and he even said that he had created more voices for this film, more robot voices for this film than he had ever done for the Star Wars franchise. So pretty crazy. For this film here, and there's a documentary where you can kind of learn a little bit more about the creation of Wally's voice, and like who Wally is as a person. But you hear from Ben Burt himself that Wally is kind of like a little kid. He's learning how to talk because he's on Earth with just one other living thing. Anyone know what that other living thing is?
Plant.
Kind of, but a cockroach, yeah. You can't really talk to a plant, but you're right, you also can't talk to a cockroach. Those two things. Yeah, so there's no communication. Wally's just going about his day. He watches movies. He watches one movie. Anyone happen to know that movie? Hello Dolly, yeah. It's his favorite musical, and it might also be just the only tape he ever found, but it's his favorite musical. And so that's the only like actual dialogue we really hear from like Wally listening to something, anything at all. So there's really no communication. He's not learning how to talk until he meets Eve, and she starts trying to teach him how to talk. She teaches him how to say her name, but he says it incorrectly. Does anyone remember how he pronounces it? Eva. But it's Eve. He also learns how to say directive. So, slowly he's building his dialogue, but he doesn't really talk. He doesn't really have anyone to talk to except for, well, a cockroach, who actually has a name. He is named after Hal Roach, a silent film director, someone who inspired Andrew Stanton while he was creating this film. All right, we've pretty much locked in the whole of Wally here. We want to start waking him up, though. Right now it looks like the shell of Wally, like he's powered down here. So let's start waking him up. Let's add in some features here to see our little robot. One thing we can add right away that makes him look alive are his eyes. And his eyes are these nice big circles. They are cameras, but if you wanted to, you could change the shape of them. Maybe you want to add hearts in there, or stars, or maybe you want to draw in the silhouette of Eve. I think that would be sweet. But I'm going to go in here towards the inner corner of those like goggle shapes here for his eyes, and I'm just going to go with a big circle. If you place in his pupil more in the deeper part of his eye, he will look like Hey, whether or not you meant to do so. So just be careful with that. But if that is what you are going for, you can totally do that. I'd love to see how it turns out. One thing though, before I shade in his pupils here, are those little like glossy bits in his eyes. It makes your robot characters and your maybe like monster characters look a little bit more alive and awake. So I'm going to go in here right towards the inner corner and add in a little circle, a little highlight to his eye. And then I'll go in here and shade in those pupils nice and solid black. We can add a few lines here to his neck to show that it does in fact retract. And I'm just going to add maybe like 2 or 3 horizontal lines here just to, again, let us know as the audience that he does sometimes fold kind of down into his own body. So just 2 or 3 lines here on that neck. And we can add in the split of his fingers. He's got 2 fingers and a thumb. And to make his hands look like they're split into 2 fingers, I'll just add in this teeny tiny rectangle towards the top of his hand. It makes it look like he's got little clipboards for hands. And then we can bring down a diagonal line here right through the middle. And this right here will help show those 2 separate fingers. That first horizontal line that we drew earlier here just underneath his hands, I am going to lock this in because it has Wally's buttons and panels here on top. Wally is meant to look like a much older robot, something we would have been able to create right around the time this film released. And so the team at Pixar really wanted to make sure that you could tell what he does just by looking at him. So he's got his name out front, he's got his charging panel over here, that's what I'm going to add in. He's even got some vents and a little like cassette player here on the left, if you don't know what a cassette player is anyways. But I'm going to go in here and just add a little rectangle, and right in half we'll split it and add in his battery levels. So I'll add the levels on the right, and on the left I'll add in a little sun emblem because he does charge solar. So whenever he charges, it always looks like he's sun tanning. It's really cute. We've got the vents here on the left hand side, which is a bunch of rectangles. You can add little buttons there if you would like to. And then I will add underneath these vents just one more teeny tiny rectangle, because sometimes he will listen to Hello Dolly while he cleans, so we want to add in that little space, that insert. We can also add in his name here on the bottom right. Now, Wally stands for something. Does anybody happen to know what his name stands for? It's okay if you don't, so it's going to be like a big learning lesson for us. Okay, the W is another word for trash. Anyone know? Waste. The A might be the hardest part, so I'll give it to you. It's allocation. The double L, imagine you're putting something into the bed of a truck. What are you doing? Loading. And then the action of going up, but it's an L word. Lift, yeah. Or carrying something up, I guess. And then the E is for where he works. Earth. So he is a waste allocation load lifter Earth class. There's Wallies on the Axiom as well, and they are called Wall A's because they are Axiom class. There's Eve. Her name means extraterrestrial vegetation evaluator. Her whole job is to look for plant life on planets. What about, you guys remember the little cleaning robot? Super mad? Mo, right, yeah. His name is Microbe Obliterator. He's like, all these germs make him so mad, he must destroy them, obliterate them. It's wild. But once you've got Wally's name here, that's technically everything you need. I like to add some tread here to his tires for some extra credit. It really helps fill in the space. But anything else at this point onwards is extra credit and up to you. But find yourself a spot most importantly and sign your name nice and big and proud so we know whose Wally this belongs to. And with that, most important question, did we have a good time?
Yeah.
Fabulous! I'd love to see all of your sketches here. I have gone a touch over my time. So instead, I'm going to give you guys a big round of applause for drawing with me start to finish, documenting up